This isn't just about gardening, it's about a crime you might not know you're committing. In California, planting the wrong fruit can carry the penalty of agricultural terrorism, forcing the state to incinerate entire orchards. The citrus scapegoat, kumquat, this small fruit, often candied or eaten whole, has become a scapegoat in California's war against the Asian citrus psyllid, ACP. The ACP is a nearly microscopic insect that feeds on citrus leaves. When it feeds, it spreads the incurable, highly detrimental bacterial disease known as Huanglongbing, HLB, the so-called citrus greening disease. This disease causes the fruit to remain hard, lopsided, and tragically perpetually green. Once a tree has it, it must be incinerated. Because kumquats are technically citrus, and because of their relatively compact size and easy movement, they are considered high-risk hosts, especially in the state's mandatory quarantine zones. The risk is so immense that agricultural inspectors maintain extremely strict rules for moving, growing, and even possessing the trees. If you are caught moving an uncertified citrus tree, including a kumquat, across a quarantine line, the penalty is severe. It is an act of agricultural terrorism in the eyes of the law. You can grow it, but you have to jump through permits and regulations that make it a headache. The state won't allow one tiny, potentially infected kumquat to risk the livelihood of thousands of farmers and the fate of every orange grove from San Diego to Sacramento. It's a tragedy that such a delicious little fruit can be responsible for such potential catastrophic harm. The state won't allow one tiny, potentially infected kumquat to risk the fate of every orange grove in the state. And the next danger isn't a tiny bug or a massive fine. It's a simple berry that carries a microscopic fungus powerful enough to eradicate every one of California's century-old pine forests. The forbidden pouch, currant. The currant is a tart, beautiful berry, once a backyard staple for making jams, jellies, and even homemade wines. But for decades, this little fruit has been locked in an agricultural battle against California's majestic timber industry. The currant crime, being a perfect biological weapon against the state's prized sugar pine and white pine forests. The culprit is the white pine blister rust, WPBR, a fungal disease that can spread rapidly through the air, eliminating pines that take centuries to grow. These are the colossal trees, the 1,000-foot giants of the Sierras. The white pine blister rust uses the currant as a staging ground, a simple bush that infects a 100-year-old forest giant. The rust uses the currant and its close relative, the gooseberry, as an intermediate host to complete its life cycle. The currant bush itself doesn't perish, but it harbors the fungus, allowing it to jump back to the pine trees, often wiping out vast, commercially vital timberlands. Because the logging industry is critical to the state's economy, the laws have been exceptionally harsh. For a long time, it was illegal to grow most varieties of currants in vast swaths of California, especially near commercial forests. Even today, the regulations regarding black currants are incredibly strict, requiring specific rust-resistant varieties and permits. You can find some cultivated red or white currants on the market, but the wild, powerful black currant remains mostly forbidden, sacrificed to protect the giants of the California ecosystem. Sometimes the biggest threat isn't a fungus hitching a ride, but a plant that is simply too good at surviving, too aggressive for the delicate balance of a new environment. That's the problem with our next fruit, a tropical vine whose passion for life threatens to choke out native vegetation. The invasive vine. Passion fruit. Imagine a vine that covers everything in its path, yielding beautiful flowers and a complex, intoxicating fruit. The passion fruit embodies the perfect tropical escape, but its fierce adaptability and sheer aggression are exactly what make many varieties illegal to plant in certain regions of California. This isn't about disease, it's about a plant that is simply too successful for the local ecology. Many species of Passiflora, the plant family that includes passion fruit, are classified as invasive species in California, especially in the state's warmer, coastal, and more humid zones. The vine grows at an alarming speed, and its seeds are easily dispersed by birds and wildlife, allowing it to quickly establish large, dense thickets. In the eyes of conservationists, this lush, runaway growth threatens to choke out fragile native Californian habitats and shade out slower-growing native species. While specific commercially approved cultivars, like the standard purple variety, which is often grown in controlled conditions, may be conditionally legal. The planting of wild or non-certified passiflora varieties is restricted or banned outright. The law is trying to prevent a beautiful garden ornament from becoming a pervasive jungle that destroys the state's natural plant diversity. The risk is high enough that, unless you are sure of your variety and location, the passion fruit vine remains a beautiful form of botanical contraband. Sometimes the danger comes not from an aggressive grower, but from a tree that's simply too popular with the state's most destructive insect. Our next illegal fruit, the loquat, is a delicious sweet host for the persistent, costly Mediterranean fruit fly. The tiny terrorist, loquat. A beautiful ornamental evergreen, the loquat looks like the perfect backyard shade tree, offering sweet, apricot-colored fruit in the late spring. But for California's agricultural enforcement, this gorgeous, low-maintenance tree is essentially a waiting room, a five-star hotel for the state's most persistent, expensive enemy, the Mediterranean fruit fly, or medfly. The medfly is a tiny insect with a devastating appetite, and the loquat is one of its favorite hosts. Because the loquat is an urban tree, often found in dense neighborhoods and unmanaged gardens, it creates a perfect, unregulated reservoir for the pest. When the medfly finds a loquat, it lays its eggs in the ripening fruit. These eggs hatch into larvae, spoiling the fruit and allowing the pest population to explode, potentially spreading to nearby commercial crops of stone fruits and citrus. The eradication efforts have been so aggressive, they often involve wide-scale, emergency aerial spraying over residential areas, a level of intervention that has cost California more than $100 million in taxpayer money just to eliminate this one pest. Consequently, the presence of loquat trees is highly scrutinized within designated quarantine zones. While the tree is not uniformly banned statewide, officials in high-risk regions have often had to issue mandates for fruit stripping or even tree removal to prevent the establishment of a permanent medfly population. It's a sad irony that the tree's adaptability and abundance is the very thing that makes it a liability in the eyes of the law. The battle against these tropical insects is constant, and our next forbidden fruit, the papaya, is restricted not just for the fly that loves it, but for a whole collection of pests that can hitch a ride across the border undetected. The seed of suspicion, papaya. A bite of fresh papaya is a passport to the tropics, a sweet, mellow escape usually found thousands of miles from the California coast. But trying to bring that escape into your backyard comes with an agricultural interrogation at the state line. California's strict border controls treat the papaya not just as a fruit, but as a potential biological Trojan horse. The fear isn't of the tree itself, which can struggle in California's climate, but of the pests that travel with it. Uncertified seeds and cuttings from tropical regions pose an immense threat, potentially importing exotic insects, notably the carambola fruit fly and other non-native pests not yet established in the state. California has a zero-tolerance policy. An outbreak of these tropical pests could rapidly spread to other high-value commercial crops. This concern is why general backyard planting of non-certified or wild papaya varieties is heavily restricted. While commercial farms with special permits can cultivate approved varieties, the casual gardener buying unverified seed stock online is engaging in an illegal practice. The state prioritizes protecting its massive existing agricultural output over allowing a single tropical delicacy to be grown without extreme caution. The tropical dangers don't end there. Our next fruit is known for its luxurious, custard-like texture, yet it hides a destructive pest that threatens to overshadow the state's billion-dollar avocado harvest. That is the tragedy of the cherimoya. The avocado's shadow, cherimoya. The cherimoya is an extraordinary fruit, often called the custard apple for its snowy white flesh and taste reminiscent of pineapple, mango, and vanilla. Mark Twain famously called it the most delicious fruit known to men. Yet, for California, this tropical prize is shadowed by a dangerous pest already established in the state, one that threatens to move from the cherimoya straight into the state's massive avocado groves. The villain here is the annona seed weevil, ASW. This tiny beetle lays its eggs inside the ripening fruit. Regulators fear that if this weevil were to migrate unchecked into commercial farms, it could easily attack the pits of avocados, severely damaging the state's key export crop. The state works hard to prevent this insect from spreading further into the existing avocado and citrus territories. Because of the ASW threat, the planting and movement of cherimoya fruit and seeds are severely restricted outside of specially licensed controlled commercial farms. For the average backyard gardener, attempting to grow an uncertified cherimoya means risking the spread of a pest that could decimate California's prized crops. This sweet, expensive fruit is, by agricultural necessity, kept under lock and key. The need for control extends far beyond high-value crops like avocados. Our next tropical fruit, the guava, is a silent spreader, a fragrant host that hides pests without ever showing any symptoms, making it a ghost in the garden. The tropical sleeper, guava. The scent of fresh, ripe guava is intoxicating, a perfume that instantly conjures images of humid breezes and tropical sunshine. Yet, within this sweet fragrance lies a significant agricultural danger. The guava is a master of disguise, a silent carrier that can host destructive pests without showing any outward signs of sickness. This invisibility makes the true tropical guava, Psidium guajava, a major target for restriction. The primary fear is that it can silently harbor the guava fruit moth and various species of non-native fruit flies that could decimate nearby commercial crops like peaches, apricots, and plums. Since the guava fruit can mature and drop to the ground, providing an undisturbed breeding site, a single backyard tree can become a factory for dangerous insects. For state inspectors, a seemingly healthy guava tree in a residential area is a ticking time bomb. While the hardier, cold-tolerant pineapple guava is generally legal, true tropical guava varieties are often subject to strict quarantine or even eradication orders in sensitive agricultural counties. This is a difficult call for regulators, but the risk of allowing a silent host to compromise hundreds of acres of commercial fruit must always outweigh the pleasure of one backyard harvest. The state's vigilance against disease and pests is especially fierce when it comes to the vast stone fruit orchards. Our next banned fruit, the sour cherry, carries microscopic pathogens that threaten every apricot, peach, and nectarine grown in the state. The sour swarm, sour cherry, tart cherry. There is nothing quite like the sharp, bracing flavor of a sour cherry, the essential ingredient for a perfect classic pie or tart preserves. Yet, this fruit is largely forbidden in California, considered a biological threat to the nearly 500,000 acres of peaches, apricots, and sweet cherries that form the state's massive stone fruit industry. The issue isn't the cherry itself, but what it silently carries, a microscopic rogues gallery of plant pathogens. Sour cherry varieties are highly susceptible to debilitating ailments like the cherry leaf roll virus. These pathogens can spread through rootstock and sap, and once established, they can stunt growth, reduce yields, and essentially ruin an entire commercial orchard, making the fruit unsaleable. Because all stone fruits belong to the Prunus genus, they share vulnerabilities. To protect its certified clean crops, California enforces strict rules against the importation or planting of uncertified rootstock for tart cherries. While the more common, certified sweet cherry is a legal crop, attempting to grow unverified sour cherries is seen as an unacceptable risk to the state's multi-billion-dollar harvest. The tart taste of a forbidden cherry is simply too costly a gamble. The fight against invisible diseases doesn't stop with trees. Our next illegal fruit, the black raspberry, looks harmless enough, but its beauty hides the potential for a devastating viral outbreak that could wipe out commercial berry patches across the West Coast. The silent spreader, black raspberry. The black raspberry is a dark, luxurious fruit, richer and more flavorful than its red counterpart, often growing wild in forgotten corners. Yet, this simple bramble carries a dangerous secret. It is a silent, primary host for highly contagious viruses that could utterly destroy commercial red raspberry and blackberry fields across the state. The primary concern is the raspberry leaf curl virus, which causes leaves to curl downwards and dramatically reduces the plant's ability to produce fruit, eventually causing the canes to perish. While red raspberries are widely grown and legal, the black and purple varieties are far more susceptible to harboring and spreading these viruses, with few visible symptoms until it is too late. Because these brambles are commonly propagated through cuttings or root divisions, an uncertified plant bought from an unknown source is a massive risk. State agriculture authorities consider the introduction of uncertified black and purple raspberry cultivars to be an almost guaranteed source of viral infection that would threaten California's massive berry industry. This industry relies heavily on producing certified, clean planting stock, and any rogue backyard operation spreading disease could be disastrous. The beautiful dark fruit, therefore, remains largely a prohibited crop, a sacrifice made to ensure the health of the entire bramble family. Protecting these delicate crops sometimes means guarding the most iconic landscapes of the state. Our next illegal fruit involves the magnificent date palm, where historical imports introduced dangerous pests that regulators are still fighting today. The desert delinquent, date palm. The image of the date palm is inseparable from California's desert landscape, its magnificent fronds framing the horizon in the Coachella Valley. Yet, beneath this iconic silhouette lies a history of agricultural smuggling and fear. The historical importation of uncertified offshoots from overseas introduced destructive pests that permanently scarred the industry. In the early 1900s, these uncertified cuttings carried hitchhikers, including the devastating palm weevil and various incurable fungal diseases. The resulting outbreaks forced the wholesale destruction of massive amounts of stock, costing millions of dollars in eradication and lost production. Because of this history, California agriculture maintains fierce regulations regarding the date palm. Importing or growing any uncertified stock, meaning not grown from inspected laboratory-certified tissue culture, is strictly prohibited. The state won't allow a new, rogue batch of dates to undo a century of hard work. For the home gardener, this means any attempt to plant a seed or an uncertified cutting picked up on a trip is technically contraband, risking the health of every palm in the desert. Sometimes the threat isn't a pest carried on a plant, but the plant itself, a hardy, fragrant fruit known as the feijoa, that is simply too determined to survive, threatening to overwhelm California's delicate coastal ecosystem. The coastal contraband, feijoa pineapple guava. The feijoa, or pineapple guava, is a deceptively hardy fruit, a fragrant olive green globe with a creamy, tropical-tasting pulp. It thrives in the mild California climate where delicate tropicals fail. Yet, its rugged, low-maintenance nature is precisely what makes it a dangerous coastal contraband in the eyes of environmentalists. This isn't a story of pest or disease, but of botanical invasion. While the feijoa tree is ornamental and widely sold, its seeds are easily eaten and widely dispersed by local wildlife. When these seeds land in native habitats, the plant's aggressive hardiness allows it to quickly establish itself, outcompeting slower-growing native Californian shrubbery. In sensitive ecological areas along the coast, the feijoa becomes a silent enemy, whose dense growth can choke out the diverse plant life that local insects and animals rely upon. For this reason, many local governments have moved to restrict or even ban the planting of feijoa in ecologically sensitive zones. It's a reminder that a fruit's legality is often tied less to its taste and more to its survival instincts. That threat of invasiveness isn't limited to above-ground growth. Our next forbidden food is an underground fugitive, the true yam, which poses a hidden risk to the agricultural world that requires complex permits just to plant. The underground fugitive, yam. Most of us know the sweet potato, that familiar orange tuber, but few realize that the true yam is an entirely different species, a starchy, tough-skinned root from the tropics that has been labeled an underground fugitive by California regulators. Its crime is being a deeply buried, complex vegetable that is almost impossible to inspect. The true yams belong to the Dioscorea genus, and unlike sweet potatoes, they can be massive, growing deep into the soil. It is this underground life that creates the agricultural problem. Planting uncertified yam stock carries a high risk of introducing exotic root knot nematodes, subterranean fungi, and other non-native pests that are difficult, if not impossible, to detect before the plant is fully established. California agriculture views the importation of any underground crop with extreme caution because once a tuber pest is in the soil, it can spread exponentially and remain viable for years, contaminating vast tracts of farmland. For this reason, true yam species are classified as high-risk commodities and are subject to complex regulations and permits for cultivation. Unless you are a licensed agricultural facility importing certified, sterile tissue culture, this tropical staple remains a forbidden crop. It's a classic example of the law prioritizing the health of the soil over the desire for a unique vegetable. The theme of aggressive growth continues with our next fruit, the jujube, a delicious Chinese date that is banned not for carrying pests, but for being too good at survival, using its roots to spread and become a roadside menace. The hidden honey, jujube, Chinese date. The jujube, sometimes called the Chinese date, offers a rare and delightful experience, a fruit with the snappy crunch of an apple and the sweet concentrated flavor of a date. Yet, this delicious fruit is considered a roadside menace by agriculturalists because it possesses a survival instinct that is simply too aggressive for a managed environment. The issue with the jujube isn't a pest it harbors, but its relentless, unstoppable root system. The tree sends out suckers, new, unwanted shoots that sprout directly from the roots, often popping up many feet away from the original trunk. These suckers grow aggressively, quickly establishing new trees, making the jujube exceptionally difficult to contain and control in any area that could interfere with commercial farming or infrastructure. It is simply too good at becoming a wild, naturalized plant, competing for water and nutrients needed by carefully cultivated crops. For that reason, the jujube has been locally restricted or banned in many agricultural counties due to its invasive potential. The state is protecting its delicate balance, refusing to allow a hardy fruit to colonize and create problems that can last for decades. This is a recurring theme. What's beloved by the home gardener is sometimes feared by the industry, but nothing brings that conflict into sharper focus than our next forbidden fruit, the kaffir lime, a culinary treasure that is intimately linked to the absolute worst, most expensive threat to California citrus, a risk so great it's often removed by state mandate. The ornamental trap, kaffir lime. The aromatic zest of the kaffir lime leaf is the centerpiece of countless Asian dishes, lending a unique, bright perfume that cannot be replicated. This fragrant ingredient is a culinary necessity, yet the plant that produces it, Citrus hystrix, has been designated an ornamental trap, a high-risk plant so intimately tied to the greatest biological threat in California that its planting is often illegal. That threat is the virulent duo of the Asian citrus psyllid, ACP, and the incurable Huanglongbing, HLB disease. The kaffir lime is considered one of the ACP's most susceptible and preferred hosts. Its new growth provides a perfect nursery, allowing the pest to multiply rapidly and spread the devastating bacterial infection to nearby orange, lemon, and grapefruit groves. Given that the state is fighting a desperate ongoing battle to contain the spread of HLB, regulators view uncertified kaffir lime trees as critical liabilities. For this reason, the planting and often the possession of kaffir lime is heavily restricted or banned outright in high-risk quarantine zones. It's a bitter choice between a coveted ingredient and the fate of California's entire multi-billion-dollar citrus economy. This extreme vigilance is not reserved for exotic or ornamental plants. Our final forbidden fruit is actually one of the most common backyard staples, the grape, which can be technically illegal if its history is unknown. The ghost of the garden, uncertified grape varieties. California is the heartland of American wine, its vineyards stretching across thousands of rolling hillsides. Given this heritage, it seems absurd that a simple grapevine could be considered illegal. Yet, if that vine's lineage is unknown, it becomes the ghost of the garden, a potentially catastrophic liability to the state's massive viticulture industry. The danger isn't the fruit itself, but the rootstock. Uncertified, backyard cuttings and vines are often silent carriers of debilitating diseases like phylloxera, a devastating root louse, and various incurable viruses such as leaf roll. If these infected vines are planted near a commercial vineyard, the disease can spread rapidly, leading to the necessary destruction of entire blocks of expensive, established grapevines. Since California's wine industry relies on using certified, clean planting stock, any uncertified vine is treated as a severe threat. Moving or planting it without inspection is technically illegal. The law places the health of the commercial vineyard, the source of billions of dollars, far above the romantic notion of a hobbyist's heirloom grape. From tiny kumquats hiding virulent psyllids to common grapevines carrying invisible viruses, these 15 forbidden fruits reveal the true cost of paradise. The extreme vigilance of California's agricultural law exists to protect an economy built on abundance, ensuring that one gardener's pleasure never becomes the state's agricultural tragedy. The line between a backyard treat and a billion-dollar catastrophe is thinner than you think. If learning the true cost of California's forbidden fruits changed how you look at your garden, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the surprising secrets hiding in plain sight.